Welcome to Storylines Live, the only podcast that explores the power and the meaning of the most important story in business, the one that answers why somebody would buy from you, work for you, invest in you, or partner with you. At Vendilli, we call this your capital S story, because that's the story that defines the very character and nature of an organization. In every episode of Storylines Live, we feature great business leaders and storytelling experts who can share their experiences and thinking to help you and your organization do a better job of sharing your capital S story to deliver remarkable business results. On this episode, we're honored to have Sandra Bargman with us. And I love Sandra. We'll talk more about this, the way you describe yourself, a multi-hyphenate.
Yes, I learned that word from the youngsters.
All right. Well, here you go, audience. You're going to get the full multi-hyphenate right here because I'm going to give you Sandra's bio. Sandra operates at the high voltage intersection of performance, presence, and purpose. I love that.
Mm.
3 Ps. As an accomplished professional, wow, you're SAG, AFTRA, AEA. She's an actor, a singer, a voice actor, a director, and I love this part, a seminary trained and ordained interfaith minister. It's a calling, right?
Right.
Sandra spent her career mastering the two most powerful tools the leader possesses, and this is really why she's a guest with us, what she calls the voice and the vessel. So, as the resident voice and presence coach for Magic Thread Media and Create Magic at Work, Sandra works with executives, founders, and public figures to move beyond polished speech. Don't we just hate when somebody's just reading a text, right? Let's get beyond that into what she calls gutsier storytelling. Hello, you had me at storytelling. Her methodology is called the BIG approach, BIG, which she's going to define for us. It weaves the technical precision of stage performance, breath, vocal resonance, body language, with the emotional depth of a spiritual guide. Think about being centered, right? Listening to yourself, what she calls wisdom presence. Now, in addition to all that, Sandra is the host of a podcast called The Edge of Every Day, where she explores what it means to live authentically at the threshold of change. Change. Wait a minute. Is there change going on in the world right now?
Lord.
There you go.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. So whether Sandra's coaching a CEO to command a boardroom or helping a visionary find ferocious compassion to speak an unpopular truth, her work is about one thing, uncoupling your identity from your fear so that your real voice can emerge. Wow, Sandra, it's such an honor to have you on Storylines Live. Is
Oh,
there anything in that wonderful bio that I missed that you think our audience would appreciate knowing about you?
and not a thing. I have 2 fabulous cats and a wonderful husband.
All right, there you go. That's great. They're very
It's an
important.
honor to be on your show, Paul. Thank you so much
Oh,
for having me,
thank
and
you. You
hello
know,
to your listeners.
we've had both dogs and cats, and somebody gave us the saying one time: "Dogs have owners and cats have staff." So,
Oh, fully. Fully. Yeah, and you learn that pretty quick.
oh, you really do. You really do. Now, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is because you do have a podcast. Could you tell our audience a little bit about your podcast?
Well, my podcast started, you can see in this poster for those of you who are watching,
Watching, yes.
I have a poster behind me, The Edge of Every Day. It's from my solo show that combined under the umbrella of my company, Sacred Stages LLC. The Edge of Every Day combined my performing background with the spiritual concepts that, as an interfaith minister and spiritual leader, I wanted to talk about and share and teach and
Mhm.
and invite people to explore. So I combined it with, comedy and music, and I crafted it like a ritual and invited people to come in on any level they wanted. What we explored in the show, which is the same concepts that I move into the podcast, is
Mhm.
is paradox, that we live in a time that is very complex, and
Yes.
people want life to be either or, black or white, it's good or bad, and that's just impossible in 3D. And so I wanted to bring to light ways in which people could explore some of the shadowy corners of their life where they didn't want to look, things that they
Mhm.
believe, ways that they might move in the world that they were not necessarily excited to share, that sort of the Jungian, the shadow work, along with the light work and a more holistic approach. And I've brought all those concepts into the podcast, which I created as a result of COVID. As I was updating that show, boom, COVID hit, and all of the idea of doing live theater went away. And so, along with so many other people, I started a podcast.
There you go.
Yeah.
And I imagine you're on all the streaming platforms.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, folks, we'll put that in the show notes so that you can, take a listen to Sandra's podcast as well. I think that'd be really, great. We're gonna have a lot to talk about in this episode, folks, so buckle in. Sandra, we always ask our guests on Storylines Live, we have this, conception of the capital S story that answers those 4 questions. Why would somebody buy from you, work for you, invest in you, partner with you? And which one of those 4 is most important to you right now?
Well, I think all of them
Mhm.
can work, truly. I mean, if you siphon them all together, how do I want to align with what you're doing, Sandra?
Yes.
And I treat everyone that I work with like we're doing a play. It's my mentality. It's my creative mind that the story is the number one thing we're working on, whether it's the podcast, whether it's I'm giving a talk at some local congregation, whether I am marrying a couple and telling their love story, whether I'm
Mm,
writing a play, whether I'm acting in a play, it's always or directing people. It's always what is the intention of the
mhm,
story and how do I support it? And
mhm,
do I need to step into the center in the spotlight or am I a supporting character? And
mhm.
I do that with all of the people that I work with. If we're getting your message out, how can I help you step into the spotlight using all the actor techniques,
Yes.
playfulness, permission to try things, risk taking, making mistakes, just role playing, all of the ways in which you can explore who you are and bring your story in whatever venue to life.
Mhm. Yeah, so what I get from what you just shared is your core focus is working with people to
Mhm.
bring these things out in them, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't have, I've have freelancers work for me,
Yes.
but I am sort of the sole, I am the brand.
You're the IP.
Exactly.
Intellectual property. Uh, I love that. Well, you know what you shared too. I just a couple of quick thoughts from me. Number one, everything is about a story, right? And you'd be shocked to hear that on a storytelling podcast, wouldn't you? But let me put some science behind that. A few years ago, researchers at one of the major universities, I frankly don't remember whether it was Yale or Princeton or someplace like that, wanted to do a study of information overload. And they decided the way to do that was to wire up people's brains and, this theoretical idea that there's 2 halves to a brain, which apparently is not actually true. But, there's the creative side and the logical side. And they're not, well, the logical side's going to get overwhelmed. So that's the side we're going to watch. We'll wire up that creative, goofy side because that's going to be the control. Nothing's going to happen there. And so they put subjects through these overload tests. And the scientists were shocked to discover that things were going back and forth between logical and creative side.
Love it.
And when they asked test subjects what was going on, because they thought the creative side of the brain, I don't know, that it would be daydreaming or something, who knows? And the test subjects said, I need to make sense of things. And as things were happening, I was putting them into a story that I could understand.
Mm.
Boom. That's what this is all about, right? That's a big part of what you're doing when you're working with your clients. You're helping them to understand this power of this. I often say that when the first person in the world discovered how to start a fire on purpose,
Yeah.
they explained it to the second person. It probably involved a story, maybe involving barbecued meat. I don't know. That's the way
Like a mammoth over. Yeah.
there you go. See, that's the way we work as human beings, right?
Oh, totally. It's encoded in us.
Yes.
absolutely encoded in us.
Yeah. Now, that's my take on storytelling.
Mm.
Obviously, I have the podcast because we have our take on storytelling. Sandra, what's your take on storytelling? How do you view it? Where does it fit in with everything?
Well, I think that storytelling is really transformative. I look at it like it's a spiritual practice, a
Hmm.
sacred practice, because it really, more neuroscience, neurocoupling.
Yes.
When you're telling stories, people's brains are quite literally syncing, and there's more understanding between people. There's more connection. There's more empathy. And in today's world, boy, do we need that in the polarization. I think storytelling really at its core for me is a pathway to greater self-knowledge.
Hmm.
And I think self-knowledge is at the heart of the know thyself Greek maxim is really at the heart of any creative journey, any spiritual journey, or any leadership journey.
Yes. Wow. That's amazing. Now, here's another study that's in my book that directly relates to what you shared about neuroscience. And I remember the facts here. Dr. Yuri Hassan at Princeton did a study several years ago. He had a young woman, an undergraduate, tell her worst prom experience story. And to do this, he put her inside a functional MRI machine. And if you've ever had an MRI, you're inside these tubes for a long period of time. And they recorded all of her brain activity.
Mm.
Then they recruited about 30 test subjects and they put them inside the MRI. And, when you're usually getting an MRI, for those who don't know, the medical professionals will say, would you like to listen to music or a podcast? Or because you're going to be in there for a while, what else can you do? And in this case, what they did is they had people listen to this young woman's bad prom story. And everything you said was validated scientifically by comparing brainwave patterns. I often say it's like, almost 100 years ago, Astaire and Rogers and all the big Busby Berkeley movies of the 1930s, that the storyteller and the story listener or audience were moving in sync at
Mm.
the elemental level of their brains. And, from your world, I think this is directly relevant because how many times have you gone to a play or a musical performance or a film and you say to yourself, man, that was so good. I wish it didn't end. And to me, Sandra, that's evidence of what we're talking about in terms of that neural coupling of the person sharing the story and the person receiving it.
Yeah. It's really communion in its most profound sense.
Hmm.
Just the deep sacred connection that you can make through storytelling. Yeah.
Can you say a little bit more about what you shared a few minutes ago about self knowledge and connecting with self through storytelling? Why is that important in your work?
Well, because if you're going to tell a really great story that's going to do everything that we've just talked about, you've got to summon some courage to be vulnerable.
Hmm.
You've got to, most people are completely and utterly petrified of being vulnerable, of sharing who they are. They've lost the understanding that that is one of your great strengths,
Exactly.
vulnerability. And, you have people who are emotionally intelligent and spiritually intelligent have done the internal work to know themselves, know what their triggers are, know what they believe, understand the depth and are comfortable with confrontation. They don't react to things. They respond. They can hold complex paradoxical thinking. It's at the heart of all of this. And to be a great leader in today's world in the business field, you must I mean, that's first and foremost. You can't be a strong leader without that kind of internal knowledge and emotional intelligence and spiritual intelligence.
Right. It's a connection, right?
Absolutely.
You can put somebody at a podium or delivering a speech, but if they're not connected to it, they don't believe it or whatever, you're going to have issues, right?
Yeah. Well, and it's, when you know yourself, you can laugh at yourself. You have great confidence. My definition when I work with my clients, when big, the G stands for genuineness, AKA
Hmm.
presence. And so I always tell them, people think that presence is this great charismatic, I come into the room and I'm loud and I take over. And if you are that person and that works for you, great. But that to me is not necessarily true presence. I mean, some charismatic people are rather narcissistic and not service leaders. Real presence is comfort in your own story, is
Wow.
being able to rest in your own story and own it, and to be confident that, you have nothing, there's no excuses, you are confident in how you've come to where you are. There are no regrets. There's embrace of the journey.
Wow, that is fantastic. And I really want to dig into that when we come back. Folks, we're going to take a quick break. Don't go away. We'll be right back with Sandra Bargman, and we're talking personal storytelling. Hi, folks. Welcome back to this episode of Storylines Live. We're speaking with Sandra Bargman, a multi hyphenate expert in storytelling and many other things. Just before we took the break, if you remember, she started to describe her big process, BIG, and we're going to dig into that in a second. Before we do, just a point of reference from the work that we do, Sandra. When we say that you're telling your capital S story, you need to have three pillars to rest that on. Number one is authenticity, which we define as a story rooted in facts, right? Like if we both went to the same play and I had one reaction, you had another, as long as what I shared was rooted in fact and you the same, people would say, all right, well, Sandra liked it more than Paul, or Paul saw things that Sandra didn't. But if it's not authentic, eh.
Yeah, love it.
And the second thing is, and I mentioned all of this because I think this is a big part of your work. We say you need to have a fluent storyteller. And so in the business world, a lot of times what we see is that organizations will just push the CEO out there
Mm,
because that person's in charge. And that may not be the right storyteller for the story. The example I always use is, God forbid, if I need a medical procedure, right? And I'm evaluating caregivers, I'm not going to interview the CEO of the hospital. I want to talk to the care team, right?
I love that.
So, but in
Spot on.
so many businesses, we just think roll the
Yeah,
top person out, and that may not be the right storyteller, right?
truly.
Yeah. Okay. Let's unpack big for the audience.
The big approach, my methodology, and I I had to come up with a name for it, and so I came up with big. It was kind of cheeky because I'm very tall and very large personality, so it was sort of a laugh at that. But it's really founded on three great pillars as well. B stands for breath.
Hmm.
And I mean, for an actor, for anyone, for any human being, everything begins with the breath. And the voice is breath made resonant. So everything starts there. And you can deal with, your vocal resonance through breath. You can deal with anxiety through breath,
Mhm.
stage fright, all the things. And, using breath to land things, land stories. And that moves into all of the voice work if people need to do that, diction, any kind of melodic work, if people want to get it out of the nasal and get it more resonant, all of that. Generally, that's not what I do. It's only occasionally, but part of the vocal quality I link with the I,
Mhm.
tension.
Yes.
This is where people fall down, in my opinion, most often. They don't have an intention. And I think about, what do they want from this interaction? Any good actor knows exactly what they want from this relationship, from the situation, from the audience, et cetera, et cetera. This is not to say that you can't care about the person who is on the receiving end of what you're sharing. You
Right.
can, that can be a part of your intention, and I think that it's great to pull that in. But you've got to be clear on what you want because it affects your tone.
Yes. Yes.
how you're speaking, how you're sharing this. And so that's all part of the intention. And it affects your body language. And again, how you utilize, how you land your story.
Mm,
G stands for genuineness or authenticity, AKA presence. And again, all you have to do is think about the people in your life that you feel have great presence. And again, I'm not speaking about bigger, louder, faster. I'm
right.
speaking about, I have a great story about when I really decided to combine these two tracks into really working with people and knowing that I needed to work on my own, getting my own voice out in a way, in a bigger way,
Yes.
was when I was in my second year of seminary,
Mm,
new seminary for interfaith studies in New York City. Shout out to you. We were asked, all of the class students were asked at the end to give a 20-minute sermon. And, these are people who are some of are part of organized religion, some are not, some are spiritual, not religious. Like it's a vast spectrum.
mhm.
So the day arrives and teacher gets up in front and says, who wants to go first? And, I'm very eager. I'm always like, okay, I'll go first. So I didn't. I was like, no, this is your teaching, Sandra. Sit on your hands and
Oh,
let's
okay.
let someone step forward. And lo and behold, the person who raised her hand was in my study group and probably the shyest person in the class. Goes up to the microphone, opens up her papers, and proceeds to give this incredible sermon. We're laughing, we're crying. It's so
Mm,
moving. And it's not bigger, louder, faster. It's just really present and heartfelt and authentic. And, the whole class jumps to their feet, claps and gives her a big fat hug. And she says, oh, and I give her a big hug and compliment her. And she says, thank you. That coming from you, that's really important and a big deal. And you're so comfortable in front of large audiences. And I went, oh, no, 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 no. I am comfortable on stages. Absolutely. But I'm playing a character. I'm
uh,
hiding behind a script. I'm not sharing my voice, my words, my visions, my life understandings.
mm,
And it was right then that I was like, this is a milestone. You've got to turn here. And this is where you embrace sharing what you believe, who
mm.
you feel, and beginning to understand how to lift my own voice up into the world, as well as helping others do that.
Wow. And so essentially, that became the birth of your work today. Is that accurate?
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Wonderful.
Well, yeah, it was the spark. Absolutely.
Yes.
That, like,
Yeah. So, Sandra, give our audience a sense of how do you work with a client, a leader, somebody who wants to be their authentic self?
well, first and foremost, I have an intake where I ask a lot of questions about
Mhm.
how they feel, what they feel like they need to know or do or change or learn, because we want to see how self-aware people
Yeah.
are about how they're being perceived. And so we review all of that, and I can begin to curate out of that psychological things, places where people are stuck in what they believe. They're telling themselves a story about themselves that
Yeah.
may not be true. And we begin to pull that. So it's sort of like a little spiritual counseling session, and we
Yes.
begin to pull that apart. And then I take them through the process of BIG, and we begin with breath work. And I
Mm.
start with them, how conscious are they of their breath? What do they know about breath? How do they use it to support themselves? Then we move into the intention, and more often than not, people are always like, "Well, I want to make sure that I give people what the audience wants." I'm like, "No, no. What do you want?"
Mhm.
Start there. It can include them, but you have to know what it is you want to share
Right.
and what you want out of this relationship.
Mhm.
It's give and
Yes.
take. It's communion.
Right.
And then we move into, I have exercises that I help that are playful, that I help get people thinking about how they speak about themselves and what they do in the world and what their brand is, and different exercises to make them play and come up with new languaging that isn't necessarily industry heavy, is
Yeah.
more personal and more their own. And then we get into curating milestones and themes and how do we weave these together to tell your origin story or your failure story or your success story or the story
Mhm.
of your business, and weaving all of those moments together. What are those themes to today? This is what I do today. This is how I serve. This is why you want to work with me. This is why you want to work for me. This is why you want to invest in me. And all of those.
Yeah,
I
that's
left one out.
great.
I only got
You
3.
got that back there. Um, Maybe you can't share specifics, but just to kind of bring this to life one additional step. Can you share a success story?
Well, it's funny. I don't really follow up with, I mean, everyone I work with feels like they have
Mhm.
this great new understanding of how to storytell.
Mhm.
And it's not like they went from
Right.
horrible to fantastic.
Right.
It's just a cleaner understanding of how to share where they got this journey they've taken to get
Absolutely.
here. And it's also what I've seen is that they learn how to, if something were to happen yesterday,
Mhm.
I've worked with Sandra on my story, and I know how to land it, and I know where to take a breath, and these are the things I want to weave, and I've cut out those extraneous details and blah, 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 blah. But something happened to me yesterday that I want to talk about. I want to storytell about. So they've had practice learning, playing around, giving themselves permission to understand what are the things that are going to be most important, and can jump to that more quickly and can see storytelling itself in a new light.
Wow, that's great. Okay, so that's how your clients benefit from working with you. Sandra, what brings you the most satisfaction in your work?
Oh, that brings a lump to my throat, Paul. That's really sweet. Yeah. I think inspiring people to step out of what they think people want from them
Mhm.
into what they want from themselves. There's nothing more joyful than that. They can set down the ways that they stand in their own way, and they can step into really sharing themselves in a real, raw way. Vulnerable, powerful.
That is a great statement. Thank you for sharing that. In our work, one of the greatest speed bumps and sometimes frankly roadblocks that we see is people trying to be somebody else. Some years ago, I worked on a regular basis with a CEO who was actually a great communicator. When he was speaking informally and off the cuff, even to a room of 300 people, people were laughing and engaged. But for some reason, and this task fell to me, this is a lot of my work, he felt that there were times when he needed to give a speech like Winston Churchill, and it needed to be hammered into stone tablets. And that's just not who he was. That was not really the authentic personification of this leader. So, what you just shared is just so powerful. I hope for our audience that are really taking this in. Sandra, if people wanted to follow up with you in the audience, what's the best way to reach out to you?
Well, my website is sandrabargman.com. You can also go and you can contact me directly that way. You can also go to magicthreadmedia.com and book a 20-minute conversation about how you can work with me if it would be beneficial. And my podcast, The Edge of Every Day, you can find on all streaming platforms. My YouTube channel is Sandra Bargman on The Edge of Every Day. And I am all over social media.
Well, most of us are, even if we don't want to be.
Right, exactly.
I'm joking about
Self-promoters.
I'm joking about that. But Sandra, thank you. And folks, we will have all of that information in the show notes. Sandra, it's been such a delight to spend time with a fellow traveler like yourself, really dig into an aspect of storytelling, bringing it back to what you started with, talking about the voice and your intention, right? And your genuineness. That is so, so critically important. Thank you for being with us in this episode.
It's been an honor and a pleasure, Paul. Thank you.
And thanks to everyone in the audience. We really do appreciate you being with us on this storytelling journey. Please like, comment, and share this episode. And we'll see you next time on Storylines Live, the only podcast that explores the power and the meaning of the most important story in business, the one that answers why somebody should buy from you, work for you, invest in you, or partner with you. Your capital S story.